Welcome to Live Interactive English. Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
Hey, I'm Winnie.
And we are back with day 2 of our visit to the National Palace Museum, Gugong, History in the Hills of Taipei. This is wonderful because oftentimes when we read travel stories, it involves going to another country and having a passport and spending a lot of money.
True.
In this case, even if you live down in Pingdong, visiting the National Palace Museum is not too tough.
It's doable.
You could do it in a day.
Yeah.
It might be a long day, but you could still do it in a day, and it's still cheaper than flying to Paris or somewhere like that. But I think for many people, the National Palace Museum, it would definitely be in the top 20, maybe even in the top 10 museums of the world that people should visit. Because if you want to see stuff from Chinese history and from the Chinese palace in Beijing, you know, going back hundreds and thousands of years, that's the place to go.
That's true. Usually when you think of museum and all these places that have these historical pieces, they're probably doing, you know, Greek stuff or Egyptian stuff. They don't shed
And that's
a
great.
light,
That's
which
fine.
is great. It's
Yeah.
its own thing. But, you know, when you really want to just see some Chinese things, you know, I'm not just going to fly to China and go to the museum, but I can stay right here because they have a lot of cool pieces.
All the best stuff is here anyway.
Right, including the jadeite cabinet.
Yes, which we talked about yesterday. And of course, for our writer of this story, it's the same writer from today and yesterday. They've moved to Taiwan. They haven't been here long, and this was one of the things they definitely wanted to do.
It's like a rite of passage.
I think it kind of
When you move
is.
to Taiwan, you gotta see the NPM.
Absolutely. A lot of people will definitely put that on their list of must-see locations that they'll want to take on and do in the first couple of weeks. So let's find out what goes on. It turns out that our writer is going to make a return visit to the museum, which is kind of cool.
Just couldn't get enough.
Yesterday they saw the cabbage in the gift shop. Now it's time to go back and take a deeper dive into the Gugong. So let's do that now.
A few weeks later, I returned to the National Palace Museum by myself. I wanted to take my time and learn more about the treasures it holds. I rented an audio guide, which helped me understand the meaning behind many of the works of art I saw. The museum even has a stone that looks like a piece of braised pork. At first, I thought this was quite odd, but the audio guide helped me appreciate how rare the stone is and how difficult it is to make something so detailed. It's made from jasper and is one of the most well-known pieces in the museum.
All right, I'm excited to wrap up this last day because I personally really like the museum. You like museums. And well, right now we've only met the cabbage. Let's see what else we've got.
Absolutely. And that's what we get to. It says a few weeks later. So after that first trip, a few weeks later, I returned to the National Palace Museum by myself. Who needs my husband?
I love a solo trip to a museum.
Well, I think that's more about it. I don't think she was having a fight with her husband or anything. He's probably working or busy or something.
Right.
A solo museum trip is great. As the writer says, I wanted to take my time and learn more about the treasures it holds. Now, when we see the word treasure, we often think of a box filled with gold and jewels and pirates going, "Arr, treasure!" That could be a treasure, but it can also just be anything really valuable.
Right.
Okay, so museums are filled with treasures. It might not be made of gold or jewels. It might be an old piece of writing or an old book from, I don't know, this is an old book with William Shakespeare's, name in it or something like that. That could be a treasure too. And even more personally, things that are valuable to you.
With worth.
With exactly.
Yeah.
No dollar value. It's not expensive. It didn't cost a lot, but it means a lot to you. For example, the ancient books are the museum's greatest treasures. Those are probably also very valuable.
Right, exactly. And of course, she has her way of appreciating a museum.
Okay.
And that also includes, as the article continues, I rented an audio guide.
Good idea.
Which helped me understand the meaning behind many of the works of art I saw. So for her, some people, I kind of skip the audio guides just because I like to read.
I like to read.
I like to read the paragraphs on the walls.
You can still read and listen.
I can't.
Oh, I see.
I'm one of those like, I can't.
Oh, okay. Too much information.
Yeah, which is why I appreciate the solo museum trips.
Okay.
I'm a slow reader. So she decides to kind of go and rent those headphones with those little cassette thingies. Well, nowadays it's probably just a little,
it's kind of like a little
USB
iPad
thing, or whatever. But you can listen to that and you can go piece by piece, and it'll tell you some backstory, maybe how the artist made it, what the history is behind it. And it's a good way of, learning about the art without just, reading.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, they will also be available in many languages. They will have people. They might actually have a real human tour guide, but they only maybe do those 2 or 3 times a day.
Right, you have to catch the schedule.
And you got to be with a group of people. So the audio guide will be almost the same kind of information, but you can do it on your own. It says the museum even has a stone that looks like a piece of braised pork. At first, I thought this was quite odd.
Understandable. I can understand why she found it odd. When something is odd, it's a little strange. It's not normal. So of course, I don't know about you, but when I go to another museum, I don't usually expect to see meat and cabbage. I don't expect to see my lunch on a display case. So I understand why she thought it's kind of random, it's kind of strange. So for example, you could say everyone thought Peter's decision was odd. So maybe Peter made a decision that everyone else wouldn't have made. They might have thought it was strange. Well, let's go see not an odd person, Hanny.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。作者刚来台北时，和他的先生一起去参观故宫。那就在几个星期后，他又再次前往。这次是他一个人去，他想慢慢的了解故宫所珍藏的宝物。那他有租借语音导览来帮助他理解许多艺术品背后的意义。作者提到他在博物馆里面看到一块像卤肉的石头，觉得很奇特。听到这边，大家应该都猜得到是在讲肉形石吧？那么我们来看看单字 treasure。treasure 这个名词表示珍宝，尤其是指艺术珍品。那这时候常常用复数形，而 treasure 它也可以表达宝藏啊、金银财宝，这时候是不可数名词。再看到 odd 是形容词，形容奇特的、古怪的或是怪异的。那也补充一下，在讲到作者独自前往时，老师们用到 solo 这个形容词 solo， 那它是形容单独的、独自的。介华课文中。
All right, thank you, Hanny. Continuing on with the article, but the audio guide helped me appreciate how rare the stone is and how difficult it is to make something so detailed. And I must agree, the stone is so detailed, I thought it was real.
There you go. Because of course, we're not experts on this stuff. We might look at it and go, it's a piece of stone that looks like pork. But then the audio guide, they will explain all of this to you and help you appreciate and understand things that you didn't know before. Of course, to understand is to kind of get information and have things make sense, make it, go in your brain and go, oh, okay, I get it. To appreciate, it's a bit more of an emotional thing. You learn something and then you kind of start to understand how important that is or how special it is or how unusual it is or how lucky we are to be in this situation. When you're young, you're always healthy. Being healthy is normal. But as you get older or if you get sick, when you get healthy again, you start to appreciate, wow, now I really understand in an emotional, in a feeling way, how important it is to be healthy, because being unhealthy isn't just no fun, it causes all sorts of other problems. So I should value my health, I should appreciate my health. It's not something I should just go, yay, health, it's fun. No, there's a big value to it, and to understand the value is to appreciate. For example, his story let me appreciate how much freedom we have. We read a story about, I don't know, people living in North Korea and how difficult and different life is there, and go, wow, we have so much freedom. Aren't we lucky? Now I understand that.
Right. When I first saw the meat stone, I didn't appreciate it until I heard the backstory, because I didn't realize that that type of stone, the type of color, the intense color on it is hard to find. So that's what makes it special. So I didn't understand, I was like, oh, just get a brown rock. But actually it's hard to find that type of color. And of course, on that beautiful stone, there's a lot of details. It's very detailed. And so when you use the word detailed, it means something with a lot of details or a lot of information and is very specific. So for example, you could say my essay was very detailed, so I got a good grade for it. So when they wrote this essay, they provided a lot of information, they provided a lot of proof. So that's what makes it a really good essay that gets a good grade, it's because they didn't do it in 5 minutes. They took a lot of time. They put in a lot of work to make it a very good essay. So just like the essay, this stone that was carved into a piece of meat, they didn't do it in 2 minutes.
Okay, so if I read your essay, even if it's about something complicated, after reading it, I would probably have no questions because it was so detailed. It had so much important and useful information. Good job. So let's find out more about this piece of stone pork. It's made from jasper and is one of the most well-known pieces in the museum. And that's a good word too. Often when we talk about things in a museum, you don't have to use words like statue or painting or book or crown or jewel. You just say a piece.
Right.
It's a very beautiful piece. If you go to a store and they start saying, oh, this piece is wonderful, it's going to be expensive. It's not a thing. It's not an object. It's a piece.
Right.
Ka-ching.
Ka-ching. And that way you can also refer to a bunch of different things as just a piece. Well, let's go to Hanny and see what she says.
作者起初看到那块像卤肉的石头，觉得很奇特，但是语音导览帮助他了解到这块石头的稀有性，以及制作出如此细致的作品的难度。那它是由碧玉制成，是馆内最著名的展品之一。文中的 jasper 就是指碧玉，是一种不透明的石英。那么单字 appreciate 是动词，表示了解、意识到，通常是指说意识到、了解到重要性或是价值。那么 appreciate 也可以表达欣赏、感激。再看到 detailed， 它是形容词，形容精细的、细致的或是详细的。这边还有2个重点。首先，疑问词 how 引导的名词子句。how 加上形容词或副词加主词加动词，那这个部分可以当受词来用。例如 ，Do you know how tall the actor is？ 你知道那位演员身高多高吗？那么名词子句 how tall the actor is， 这时候就是当动词 know 的受词。第2个重点是 be made from 跟 be made of 的比较。be made from 是强调制作或者是加工的过程，而且原材料呢已经经过改变、变形或者是加工后，已经没有办法清楚辨认原本的样貌了。例如 These clothes are made from recycled plastic bottles。这些衣服是用回收的塑胶瓶制成的。那么 be made of 它是强调成品的材质组成，而且原材料的本质外观仍然可以清楚辨识。例如 Lots of toys are made of plastic。许多玩具是塑胶制的。好，那接回到课文中。
All right, thank you, Hanny. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a look at the second part of the article, and we'll be right back.
The lower floor of the museum also featured special exhibits and short films about how the items in the museum were brought to Taiwan from China. As I left the museum, I felt lucky to have seen this incredible collection. Similarly, I'm very glad I made a second trip to truly recognize its value. For anyone who is curious about Chinese art and history, the National Palace Museum can't be missed.
All right, we are back and we're learning more about the the National Palace Museum, to give it its full name. We've talked about a couple of the things that if you've been there, you probably are a little bit familiar with already. The jadeite cabbage and the red jasper piece of pork.
Ooh, I'm getting hungry now.
But of course, there are a million, actually maybe like literally a million other things that you could see in that museum. But now we're going to go to another special part of the museum, actually very close to the main entrance. So let's find out what you'll see there when you come in.
Well, continuing on with the article, the lower floor of the museum also featured special exhibits and short films about how the items in the museum were brought to Taiwan from China. And as we kind of touched on in the first part, these pieces were originally from China, and that's why it has its name, the palace, because it came from the Forbidden Palace. And so here we know that, it wasn't very easy.
No. And of course, there was a war going on at the time, right? With Japan and China fighting. And the Chinese had to move these things from place to place to keep them safe from, bombs and being stolen and all sorts of other problems. So that's a very interesting story on its own.
And thankfully they did.
They did. That's absolutely right. Now we can enjoy it, and we will be enjoying it for many years to come. Let's go over to Hanny. She's got some important stuff to tell us.
作者接着提到，博物馆的低楼层还设有特展和短片，介绍了馆内的文物是如何从中国运到台湾的。那文中用到 exhibit， 在这边当名词表示展览 ，special exhibit 就是指特展。那我们接着回到课文中。
All right, we are back. So lots of things to see in the museum. We spent a few hours there today with our writer, a few hours on their first trip, but you can go back many more times. As I left the museum, I felt lucky to have seen this incredible collection. Absolutely. Museums are wonderful places, both the National Palace Museum, but any museum really, because they collect this stuff, they keep it safe, they keep it in good condition, and they allow us to see stuff that we would never normally see, except maybe in a book or online or in a picture or something. We can see it in real life. So it is an incredible collection, and we are lucky. Similarly, or in the same kind of way as feeling lucky about this, similarly, I'm very glad I made a second trip to truly recognize its value. Because if it is a museum you're really interested in, with all the things in there, it is a good idea to take a second trip. Then you can recognize the value. We had that word appreciate before. Recognize can be a very simple thing of looking at something and going, I know what that is. I recognize that person because I know their face, but it can also mean more of a feeling where you recognize something. It's like to appreciate something. Something happens and then you understand its value, right? So if your friend does a big favor for you that they really shouldn't have to, they didn't need to, but they did it just because they like you, they love you, they want you to be happy, you have to say thank you so much. You have to recognize that because that is a special thing that they did. For example, I only recognized how special that moment was after it happened.
Right. It could kind of mean like you finally see something for what it is.
Yeah, and we can use actually the word appreciate in that sentence in exactly the same way.
Right. Okay, so continuing on with the article. For anyone who is curious about Chinese art and history, the National Palace Museum can't be missed.
It can't be missed. It's really big. It's in Shilin.
You can't miss it.
You can't miss it. It's right there. But also don't skip it if you're having a trip here for the first time. Or good tip, if anyone of you are having visitors from other countries come here, National Palace Museum is definitely a place to go.
I mean, you could spend a whole day there.
You can send your friends there and then not take them somewhere and just have the day off.
All right, let's go to Hanny.
作者在离开博物馆的时候，觉得自己非常幸运能够看到这个令人难以置信的收藏。他也很庆幸自己又来了一趟，才真正明白它的价值。好，单字 recognize 这个动词表示明白、意识到，这时候大多是偏理性判断，去表达说明白、意识到什么。那么这个单字还可以表达认出、承认的意思。也补充一下 ，feel lucky to 加原形动词是表达觉得很幸运能够做某事。那文中他用 I feel lucky to have seen 来表达我觉得非常幸运能够看到什么。那因为看到那些收藏这个动作呢，是发生在感到幸运之前，所以这边他用到 to have 加 PP 来表达已完成的动作。好，接回课文中。
All right, we are back. So what do you think? Do you like to visit museums? Why or why not?
I think I can answer for both of us. We love a good museum.
Okay.
We love museums because there's just every time you go, it's different. So for us, it's like there's a lot of variety.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I have to answer in the other way because that's the other answer. No, I don't like visiting museums because I prefer to not know anything about the world. That's not true.
That's not true.
That's not a way to go. All right, guys, do go out there. And if you don't like art or history, there's definitely a museum for you.
That's true.
Yeah, somewhere in the world, there is a museum that is definitely focused and completely filled with things that are interesting to you. So don't give up. Take care of yourselves. Visit a museum if you can, and we'll see you back here soon.
Bye.
A few weeks later, I returned to the National Palace Museum by myself. I wanted to take my time and learn more about the treasures it holds. I rented an audio guide, which helped me understand the meaning behind many of the works of art I saw. The museum even has a stone that looks like a piece of braised pork. At first, I thought this was quite odd, but the audio guide helped me appreciate how rare the stone is and how difficult it is to make something so detailed. It's made from jasper, and is one of the most well-known pieces in the museum. The lower floor of the museum also featured special exhibits and short films about how the items in the museum were brought to Taiwan from China. As I left the museum, I felt lucky to have seen this incredible collection. Similarly, I'm very glad I made a second trip to truly recognize its value. For anyone who is curious about Chinese art and history, the National Palace Museum can't be missed.
最后，我们来复习今天课文里的单字文法。单字的部分有 treasure 名词，表示珍宝、宝藏或金银财宝。odd 是形容奇特的、古怪的或怪异的。Appreciate 是动词，表示了解、意识到，像是意识到重要性或价值，也可以表达欣赏、感激。Detailed 是形容词，形容精细的、细致的或详细的。Recognize 这个动词表示明白、意识到，这大多是偏理性判断，那么还可以表达认出、承认。再来文法的部分，我们第一个学到疑问词 how 引导的名词子句 ，how 加上形容词或副词，加主词加动词，那这个部分可以做受词用。第二个学到了 be made from 跟 be made of 的差异。be made from 是强调制作或加工的过程，而且这个原材料经过了改变、变形或加工后，已经没办法清楚辨认原本的样貌了。那么 be made of 则是强调成品的材质组成，而且原材料的本质外观仍然可以清楚辨识。好，那么以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
Karen, what are you still doing here? Shouldn't you be gone already?
I'm just sticking around to work on 2 new projects I picked up. I also offered to help Mia and Chris with their reports, so I need to take a look at those as well.
Oh, look at you, always the eager beaver. You're gonna burn out at this rate.
Eager beaver? Do I look like a beaver or something?
No. It just means that you're always super eager and ready to take on extra work. But, I think you could use a break.
I don't know. I think I can push a bit longer. It just feels wrong not doing something,
Hello, everyone. Today's phrase is eager beaver.
It refers to a person who is hardworking and enthusiastic, sometimes overly so.
Exactly, like someone who willingly takes on extra work and does it eagerly, usually leaving a positive and proactive impression.
The term comes from the image of a beaver, which is known for being very industrious, constantly building and fixing its dam.
You might use it in a sentence like, he is an eager beaver. He always finishes his tasks early and volunteers for extra shifts.
Or she's an eager beaver, always actively helping out her teammates.
Being an eager beaver is usually good, but it's important to find balance and not overwork yourself.
Absolutely. Don't be so busy that you forget to enjoy life.
And that's all for today's lesson.
Until next time,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.